Hi, everyone. Welcome to our newest episode of the Reach podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about all things related to sensory over the summer and within the 4th of July.
4th of July, fireworks, sparklers, colors in the sky, explosions, crowds, smoke, barbecue, parades. Oh my God, that's just too much.
It's way too much. It's way too much from a visual standpoint. It's way too much from a scent standpoint. That can be really overstimulating for the average person with autism.
Yeah, I can't count the number of times I've had a conversation with one of my relatives, and it's like, "Oh, aren't you going to go watch the parade, or aren't you going to go watch the fireworks?" I'm like, let's see, bright lights and a repeating pattern and explosions, crowds with a lot of noise and potentially music. I'll pass.
Yeah, exactly. Let's also take into consideration it's hot outside. There's a very good chance that you're going to be sweaty. There's also just too much noise to handle. There's too many smells. There's too many people. It's a nightmare. It is a literal worst nightmare to be around so many different components that can just absolutely dysregulate yourself.
If you even do choose to go, I would definitely suggest just limit that time exposure or bring anything you can to help keep yourself regulated. And
Absolutely.
beauty thing about stimming, because I've done some research on this, you can stim before you enter somewhere, and it does help pre-regulation.
Exactly why we need to be able to have the autonomy to stim, to be able to get some of that stimulation out of us because of the fact that this is very overwhelming for us. This is too much for us to be able to have to handle so many different variables and so many different things just within the context of 4th of July, you know, weather, noise. I mean, we've already covered a lot of those things, but still it's important to note that we have to be able to regulate under those circumstances.
Yeah, the best thing we can do for these circumstances is advocate for ourselves. So, sure, you let's say we want to go have a family get together. Okay. I
Mhm.
can do it with breaks. I can do it if you want me to eat at a specific table, whether you're whatever age you happen to be. Okay, sit with the adults or sit with the kids. Kids, it might be a little bit more stimulating than with the adults. Um, Also, coming from an Asperger standpoint, why would I sit with the kids at any age? I
Exactly.
need to learn from the adults.
Exactly. In my case, I personally need to know that there is a space that I can go isolate. So, being on family vacations and being in holiday circumstances with some of my family members, as much as I love my family, it's too much sometimes. I do need to be able to take myself out of the equation. So if there's bright lights and there's too much going on, I need to know that I can escape to some sort of safe space, whether that be my bedroom, whether that be just like a remote area that is away from the family. If they're worried about me, I can make sure that my battery is fully charged so I can text them. But at the same time, I need to know that I can have the space away because it can be way too much.
Nothing against the family. It's just we have our limitations when it comes to exposure to different sources of uh, energy, whether it be from physics or from socializing. And when we hit those limits, it does not put us in a good place. So to prevent that, we need to make sure we can protect ourselves. We limit the exposure, and we'll. It's going to be an understanding on both parties where, okay, I need this. I will go. I will be supportive of the family of the event, etc. in exchange for this.
Exactly. There has to be conditions in place and there has to be a compromise too. Of course, we want to be there to support. We want to be there to celebrate. We want to be there to, cheer you on, whatever that may look like. But at the same time, if we are sitting here and we're feeling super overstimulated and we don't have that spot, that actually leads to burnout. That can lead to meltdowns. That can lead to what, people may say as behaviors. That leads to certain things that just makes it that much worse for the person that's actually going into the event. And we have to be very mindful of that. Is it better to make a child or make an adult sit through something that is so overstimulating and aversive for so long? Or is it better to, come up with those compromises, come up with a routine or some sort of like regulation schedule so that way they can fully enjoy themselves in the same context that you can enjoy yourself?
Precisely. And the there are dangers if trying to say push through being overstimulated because it does not build a tolerance. It rather builds an ignorance of your dysregulation. And with that ignorance of dysregulation means you're going to be more accepting of being in a dysregulated state, which is not a good cognitive place to be. We don't want to heighten those states. We want someone to be cognizant, understand what's going on, enjoy themselves. And there are ways around this too. Like um, Central Florida, there are certain areas, like if you, especially if you live there, you want to see fireworks, just sit outside.
Yeah,
Literally, you'll be able to see like some of the fireworks from some of the local parks, depending on how uh, the proximity of where you live. And if you know someone around that area, that's a nice way to have a smaller get together and still see fireworks from a distance without having to be exposed to the super loud noises.
absolutely. And if you're like me and you don't like being outside for too long, you can be able to see a lot of those fireworks from your windows. Chances are, you probably live in a pretty populated area. I personally live just outside of Orlando, and I know that having actually like seen fireworks in and in near my neighborhood, all I have to do is just go to my bedroom window, look outside, and boom, I can see the fireworks. I still have the exposure to the fireworks, but I don't have as much exposure to the noise. And in my case, because I do not like being too hot, I can keep myself regulated from the temperature.
And protected from the mosquitoes.
Yes, mosquitoes. Oh my gosh. One of the worst parts about the summer is the mosquitoes. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to either spray myself down with bug spray or slap my legs because those mosquitoes are just eating me alive.
Yeah. So, word of warning: anybody going outside during the summer months, please apply some bug spray within your tolerance, because there are some
Absolutely.
certain things they carry that you do not want. And at the same time, I mean, I'm one who gets welts from them. It's not pleasant.
That and then also sunscreen, you know, really making sure that you apply sunscreen because down here in Florida, we get really hot. I know personally, and I can't speak for every person out there, but I get burnt pretty easily when it comes to the sun. And it's so important to make sure that, you are applying your sunscreen as often as possible. You're drinking water, keeping hydrated. If you're someone like me who needs to keep themselves cool, having ice water or like an electric fan is actually super helpful for that as well.
Comfort, self care, very important features, and always read the labels on those sunscreens because it's usually apply before going out in the sun, not apply immediately before going into the sun.
Absolutely. Between that and then also don't apply it like right after you get out into the sun too and you're already burned because at that point it's too late. You're getting yourself worse in that regard.
Yeah, well, you don't want more burn either.
Right.
So, um, so other things that you can do. So a lot of these events are likely also not just to have a lot of crowds, so you're going to have a lot of sound pressure, but you may also deal with loud music. So making sure you have ear protection, loops, whatever um, particular device you use to help lower the amount of decibels you're exposed to. That does protect the hearing. But if you are overstimulated like I am to air pressure from all that noise, it's a little bit different because your body is still being exposed to it. You won't notice it as much with your ears protected, but your body's still going to feel it, and eventually you're going to be like, wow. Okay, I need a break. You're gonna feel like you. There's tends to be more like for me almost a flight response where like I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like when that hits, go
Yeah. That's
safely,
why
but go.
that's Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so important to have that safe space. I know for me when I go out into public, for me my concerns aren't so much like the noises of like the concerts or the noises of the fireworks or anything like that. It's the people and it's the temperature. When there's too many people and there's certain social nuances that are involved, for me, that gets me very overstimulated because now I have to think about how I'm going to act. Now I have to think about how I'm going to regulate myself around all of these people. Can I stim? No, I can't. Okay, I have to mask myself for this much time. I need to be able to have that safe space, and that's where it's that much more important to make sure that, before anything like this happens, there's at least a plan of action. If you know that you feel overstimulated in certain circumstances and you're being asked to go to a certain place and you're willing to go, you have to be able to come up with different strategies and work together so that way you can ultimately be successful in that area, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. Good strategy. Take frequent breaks. Like
Yes.
get a chance to use the restroom and just okay. Good chance you're by yourself. You get to stim if not comfortable stimming in front of other people, or if the other people aren't comfortable with you stimming in front, which needs to change people. Incorporating that frequent break of regulation will allow you to last a lot longer. Um, Also, during some of the events, you can make some mild cognitive fun out of certain things. So, oh, you're going to go watch some fireworks. Count how many different colors you see, or can you figure out the pattern of how they're releasing the fireworks, or can you tell when a screaming firework is going off? The slight difference of launch, because there's a little bit harder explosion sometimes.
Absolutely. Figuring out the color pattern, the rhythm of it. Also, kind of figuring out the difference between the different types of fireworks. Like, what is one that's just going to explode really quickly versus one that's going to be so explosive that you see tons of color just magically come out. So making up those games can actually really be helpful and just even in a way regulating yourself because you have something that you can kind of like follow.
And focus on. Uh,
Mm.
Even from like a drawing standpoint, okay, what are the different spray patterns that are happening?
So it's really just that much more important, especially like if you're going into a situation, you really do want to be there. You do want to show up and, you want to support, the holiday or you want to support your family or, what may have you. I think it's just that much more important to make sure that everyone knows that there's going to be a plan of action if you might feel a certain way or if you know that these circumstances or these things are overwhelming to you because at the end of the day you might want to participate, you might feel good about being there for your family, but you also do need to take care of yourself too in the process of all of that.
Yeah, that goes for everywhere you're going to be during the summer, whether you're going to see firework displays, parades, barbecues, going to the beach, hence the sunscreen.
Mhm.
Extra emphasis also on staying hydrated, whether you feel thirsty or not.
You might not feel thirsty, but when you're out in the sun for a long period of time, you will feel dehydrated and dehydration will come up and it is not fun.
Yeah, doubly so if you go to the saltwater beach, because the water itself will sap it out of you.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Making sure that you take care of yourself with the temperature, with the sounds, even the lights, you know, um, summertime tends to be a lot brighter when it comes to the actual weather itself. So maybe like bringing a pair of sunglasses or making sure that you have eye protection of some kind so that way you can feel fully protected when you're out in the sun.
Yeah, I'm one of those for brightness. So it's summertime, it's a lot of either looking at the ground, wearing hats to help protect some of the glare, or I have polarized sunglasses. Like
Exactly.
I emphasize on the polarized, where it filters about half of the rays coming in.
Exactly. And for those of you who, might look at it as, well, you need to show me eye contact wherever we go. We might be looking at the ground because it's too bright outside and we can't see your face. So be a little bit
Yes.
more understanding with that.
Yeah, I would happy to look up, but you're just going to be this white blob.
Exactly, exactly. And believe it or not, my eyes cannot process your like white and bright face, you know? So I'm gonna need to be able to look around, look down, look at different areas that are a little bit darker. So that way my eyesight can completely regulate with looking at you. We need to look down so that way we can, not feel as much pressure from the light. Let us do it. Don't be judgmental. Be kind. Be compassionate. And also understand that it's nothing personal. It's just we need to be able to regulate our eyesight just as much as we need to regulate our own emotions. Personally, whenever we have a family get together, I tend to wander off, but I wander off in an area that I know that I'm safe, but I also wander off and I'll say something to family because of the fact that it can be so overstimulating being around a bunch of different family. And so for me, I need that because without that isolation, I am going to have a meltdown. I am going to become so overstimulated that I'm not going to want to be around you for the rest of the trip. And I need to be able to have that time to calm myself down, to regulate my emotions again. So that way I can come into the next interaction feeling fully charged.
Not only do should we have a plan going in, sometimes you want to visit there early just to go, okay, this is where we're going to be, get used to the environment. There's just going to be, crowds or whatever. But also, what do we do afterwards? Like,
Right?
like we go to these events, we go to the beach, we do all this. Now we're on the verge of like teetering on burnout, or because we've been there for a while and being respectful to the family. But
Absolutely.
depending on the level of compromise here and the level of masking. So, what do we do to help take care of ourselves afterwards?
Aftercare is so important, so when we do get the opportunity to go away from those events, and I say when just because of the fact that sometimes families want to like continue to be there. Oh, I'm having so much fun. Oh, I'm really loving this. And it's like, okay, but you're noticing that my facial expression and my emotional regulation has just completely gone south, so aftercare is so much so important. So once you leave those events, being able to take care of yourself afterwards. I like to joke around and say I need 3 to 5 business days before I can go to my next social event because it's like I need that time. I need to be able to regulate myself. I need that alone time. For me, it might be just being in my room by myself or with my dogs, depending on how I'm feeling, and just being able to lay down because that helps me get back to being grounded, back into reality, back away from the overstimulation of people and life and all the events that are happening.
Yes,
What about you?
grounding techniques, absolutely for sure. Now, for me, depending on the level of like masking push that I did, which I'm still working on figuring out, being late diagnosed, it's just like, okay, let's try this. Okay, and the next day I'm dead. I'm just dead tired. I don't want to do anything. I have no energy because I spent it all the day before. So it's literally my body just doesn't want to cooperate anyway. So I'm just, eh. Um, in better circumstances, it's just going to be okay. I just need to take it slower the next day or right afterwards. Make sure I treat myself well, whether it's doing some meditation, watching something that just lets my mind cool off, cool down, not think as much because my brain just worked so hard trying to figure out, okay, you were saying this conversation was going on. Oh, but you switched topics. But I wanted to say this point, so I got to make sure I keep this point while you're coming on this conversation and find a way to butt in and say, oh, but this reminded me of this to go back to that conversation. Now you can commit to your conversation. And also, what emotions are you conveying here and what body language is going on? Oh, and then we're going to multiply that by like the 20 people at this table.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, being able to kind of like figure out those social nuances and, now you have to be able to process that. Sometimes, you look back and you think on the conversations, you think on the events. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Oh, I didn't say this. Oh, I should have
That's another layer on top of it.
exactly. Exactly. We've got these social nuances on top of the already overstimulating event. on top of the overly stimulating environment that we're in. So it's like you've got all of these different factors, and then it just turns into like, whoa, what is happening here? So that's why it's
There's the
so
cognitive load.
exactly that cognitive load just went from 0 to 100, and now we've basically exploded.
Yeah,
So
and there's yeah, and there, like you mentioned the after effect of it of okay, yes, we've burnt out from the cognitive load, but now we're going to evaluate what we did on top of it, which is extra cognitive load after being burnt out.
exactly. Oh yeah, we have to evaluate that and then even to like, okay, what can we do next time, to make sure that we're fully preparing ourselves, which I still need a couple
or
of days.
or the contrary to that, which is the masking behavior of okay, what can I do better so people can accept me more?
Uh,
Which
no,
doesn't work. Please stop. It never works.
please let us just be ourselves. That's all we want. We just want to like be able to be ourselves when we are out in public. We want to be ourselves and we want to be able to, integrate in the way that we feel that we need to regulate. So like please show some compassion there.
Yep.
Um
And on the compromise on the kids side of things, just came to mind here. Sure, uh, like because there's plenty of family videos of me just hanging out with the adults, uh, watching the kids go play like pretend or something, and me not doing it because I didn't understand it. Still don't. Um, I'm like, can we have a compromise where like, let's say the neurodivergent child gets to do something they like to do too? And
right.
not just okay, well, why don't you go play with your cousins or brothers or sisters or whatnot? And I'm like, but I don't know what they're doing. Give me a game that has rules and I'll play.
Exactly. Like, why does everything have to be like pretend to be the mommy daddy in the house, like, or pretend to be doctor, or oh, I'm gonna play tag, but I'm gonna be a dinosaur and I'm gonna pretend to like try and eat you. Like, no, it's not just about that. There has to be compromises. Like even from a kid's standpoint, if we know that they like rules, we know that they like, you know, um, certain routines, let's be willing to adapt to that just as much as we're willing to adapt to, oh, go play pretend, no, go play over there with your cousins, whatever, because that can even be too much.
As a side note, our experiences with explosions, gunpowder, and sparkly lights doesn't apply to everyone. Uh, a lot of neurodivergencies exhibit different types of sensory seeking behavior, which will vary from person to person. Like I'm one that likes like as much as I have a love-hate relationship with light, I do like studying and see what it does when it reflects off things, and like how can I implement in an artistic stance. I'm also always attracted to more like for stems like metal spheres and metallic things because of the smoothness of it. There's my sensory seeking behavior, but there are those that seek out sound.
Yeah, like in my case, I love going to concerts. I would go to a concert every single day if I could. Well, maybe not every single day because of people, but when it comes to just like the music and the loud noises, I seek that out. So our experiences are very different. And that being said, it's very important to recognize what those differences are and how we can best, compromise within those circumstances as well.
Yeah, a good example is like loud bass sounds that like you would get some of those depending on your proximity to the fireworks or proximity to music. For
Yeah.
me, when I was a little kid, I was this tiny little kid, so if I felt a bass speaker, I felt my entire chest rattle and that disturbed me. Like full out disturbed me, but I know there are probably individuals out there likely individuals out there who like, oh cool, my ribcage shook and like
Yeah.
okay, give it like more. But I'm
I'm
like,
definitely that person. I love being around a bass system. I love being able to feel that. But that's my sensory seeking experiences. That's where, like, for me, when I go to a concert, I can hear the bass, I can hear the music, I can hear the loudness, I can hear the vibrations. I absolutely live for things like that. But again, that just goes to show you that we are not created equal. That's why when it comes to autism, we come in different forms, different sizes, different sensory needs, and different sensory aversions as well. That's why that communication really matters. What are some certain things that that a person might seek out from a sensory standpoint. I know I love the loud music, so I might seek out loud music, but I absolutely do not like being around super large crowds where I have to actually like talk to people and, have full-blown conversations and try to navigate my way into that because that can be overstimulating. So,
But
trying
there
to
are
find
those that do.
yes, they are. There are. There are. Thankfully, a concert setting, I haven't had to run into that too much, but let me tell you, if it's like a party, game over, game over because there's music which I like, there's the bass that I like, but then there's the nuances of having to be around people, and that's just too much.
Yeah. And for me, like the other like sensory seeking, like ooh, water, pools, beach, and I'm the type of person like I'll stand there dripping wet. I don't care.
Because it just feels good.
So that's been today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and please be safe over the summer. Communicate. Know that everybody's different. Everybody has different tolerances. It's just a matter of communication, compromise, and understanding. And please welcome stimming.
Let's stop stigmatizing stimming. Let's stop stigmatizing eye contact when things are too bright. Let's be more welcoming and be more accepting.
Okay? And join us next time because we're going to be going into starting college.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. I've been one of your hosts, Michelle Zeman.
I'm Conrad.
Bye.
Bye.